What's up, guys? Thanks for tuning in. Welcome back. If you're new here, I'm basically building this 2.8 Duramax to see what it can do. This is the one that's going in my truck. I'll be pulling the one out of my truck to put into this Camaro here once I get to that point. But this engine is going to be fairly reasonable build. Just trying to see. Goal is probably around 300 horsepower. So we'll see how it goes. But I want to give you guys an update, show you where I'm at, and go from there. Alright, so these are the valves I'm going to be going with. These are the valves I'm going to be using. These are the stock exhaust valves, like I explained in the last video. These are good quality valves. They're still in good shape, so I'm just going to continue using those. These intake valves are the Jeep valves. So I cleaned these up a little bit, but I did put a 30-degree back cut on that. I didn't make a video because, well, kind of jank how I did it, but it turned out nice anyway, so I didn't want to video me doing some sketchy stuff. So but I got it done, and I just used a bench grinder. But anywho, yeah, so when you use these valves, I am going to cut these or get these valve seats cut and everything. I'd like to use Dicam to check it, but I don't recommend using this this bottle, this Dicam bottle. It has this like felt tip on the end of it. Don't buy this stuff. Buy the stuff with a brush. Don't use this one because it sucks, because it obviously exploded everywhere. Don't use that. And then I'll use just some regular valve grinding. I got some fine here and then some coarse grit there. But and then to cut the valves, I'm going to use these New Ways. So if you're not familiar, New Way valve grinding stuff. So basically it comes with these cutters. These are tungsten carbide cutters, and they have different degrees. Got 60 degree here. Got my, let me get it to focus. Oh, it's upside down here. 30. This one is double-sided, so it's got a 30 on one side and a 45 on the other. And then this one here is a 15 and a 75. So basically how it works is you stick this pilot down the guide, and then you can stick this or slide this down on the pilot, and then use the T-handle to turn. You just turn it by hand. Didn't take a whole lot, but it'll kind of wear you out a little bit after you do a whole cylinder head, but it works well. It's not a $1,000 valve job by any means, but this is something you can do in your garage. This set, just these tools here, cost me like $400 or $500. So I can do as many heads as I want with this, basically, and just buy replacement inserts if I need to. But basically, one cylinder head costs, it equals the cost of this stuff. So taking this head to a professional shop would cost you the same as what it would cost to do this. and I could do it myself, which I'd rather do. I like doing this stuff myself. So anyway, yeah, that's what I'm going to be using for that. Alright, so I hope you can see this. Basically what I did is there's 3 angles here. Cut the 45 first, and then I cut a 75 in the throat, and then I cut a 60 here. So I cut the 45 and the 75, then I put a Sharpie mark across it, and then I cut the 60 to cut that corner off of there, and it leaves me with this width here. And basically what I'm trying to do is do that on all these and then make this width the same across all these. It takes some time, but be patient and you can make them all the same. Next, I'm going to be cutting this top angle because a 3-angle valve job is this 45 and the 60 plus a 30 on the top. So I'm trying to do a 5-angle valve job, but I can't quite do it. I'll show you why here in a second. But next I'm going to cut this top angle above the 45 here. Alright, so I put these top cuts on here. Hope you can see this. But you can see there is the 45 here, and the factory machines just a 45 up to the chamber. So what I did was I put a 30 and a 15 on there. It's really hard to see, but there is 2 angles there. So there's a 45 coming out and a 30 and a 15. Now I can't hit this factory 45 that's here because the valve seat is smaller, the valve is smaller. So when they cut this and they machined this head from the factory, they made this 45 a lot bigger. So basically what I'm doing is I'm just breaking this corner off of here. Instead of it just being a 45 all the way out to the chamber, I put a 30 and a 15 on it. Now you can barely see it. I marked this one over here, but this 15 is real small. So you can see this 45 and then the 30, and then this little sliver in here is a 15. Now you can't go any bigger than that because you run into the head gasket. So you can see you got to put it right up on it. You just barely miss it, but that's as far as you can go. So that's your limitation, and that's why you can't go any deeper. But this is what we have to deal with. So the only way to fix this would be to move the valve guide in, and that's a whole another mess. You start moving the port around and stuff like that. So this is pretty much, if you're just sticking with the factory casting, this is about as far as you can go. Okay, so this is what I ended up with. It's not a $500 valve job by any means, but You can see I did lap these in just to get a visual of where this sits on here, and you can see it's right in the middle where we're supposed to be. I did put a 30-degree back cut on these. I didn't film any of that process because it was honestly pretty redneck the way I did it, but it worked out. So is what it is. There's a 30-degree back cut on here. So the lapping is right in the middle of this 45 here. Same with on the seat. Kind of really hard to see all these angles in here, but it's right in the middle right here. Same with all these. These all turned out fairly decent. You can see that gray area right there is where it seals. So there's a little bit of shiny on the top here and a little bit on the bottom. That's right in the middle, right where you want it to be. And same with on the seat on here. It's really hard to get this on camera, but there's a real gray spot right in the middle. And that's where you want it to be. So I'm going to go in here. I got all these done. These are all the same. I got to measure my installed height of these now. So I'm going to throw all these in here and recheck those. They should all be good because I cut them all the same. But then I got to go in here and then pocket these out, the back side of these guides, or seats, I'm sorry, back side of these seats, and blend those into the bowl here. So got to take this edge off somehow. This edge right here actually sits underneath the seat, so you don't want to take this all the way up to the seat because you're going to have a groove in there regardless because it already sits underneath the seat. So just take it as close as you can and try to blend it in. You're going to have a gap there. There's no avoiding that. But the only way to fix that would be to put a larger seat in here, and you really don't have enough real estate to begin with. So you could do it. Not saying it's impossible, but as far as this project goes, I'm not gonna venture down that road. So, but I'm gonna check all these heights, and then I can get started on the springs. All right. So now that I have the valve seats all cut, I can work on these valve springs. So by cutting the valve seats, what you're actually doing is you're sinking the valve into the head a little bit. So that affects your tip height. The tip of this valve here, as you cut the seat, it will push the valve into the head and it will change your tip height. So what that affects is your installed height of the spring. So basically what I've done here, another way of, there's not a whole lot of options here as far as for the cylinder head for valve springs. So you can expand your options by making this valve pocket larger, as you can see I've done here. So this inner circle here is the original diameter of the spring pocket, and then this is what I cut it out. I cut this out to fit a larger spring. So because there's more options. There's more options if you go with a larger spring. So as you can tell, it cuts all the way up to here. It's not just the base that you're cutting. It's not just the floor of this. You're cutting this whole thing all the way up to the top here. And on this side, it's even worse. You come all the way up to the cam tower. It's just basically knocking the corners off of this thing. Not too worried about it as far as strength or anything goes. Didn't get anywhere near the bolt hole here, so it'll be fine. You can tell this is where the fuel injector goes. This is where the valve cover seals. Did cut into that a little bit. Still, once again, not too concerned about it. There's still plenty of meat here to seal it up. It is a little bit thinner on this side, but shouldn't be a problem. I'll dress it if it is. But this is what I use to cut it with. It's just this is actually made for a Harley Davidson because they use a smaller spring. So this is, yeah, I don't know if you can read that, but it's a 1.180 diameter. There's the part number if you're interested in looking this up. But I did chip the tooth on this thing. You can see kind of on the corner there. I chipped it on the very last one. Literally on the last one of these, I chipped the tooth on it, which kind of a pain. So it took me probably 30, 45 minutes to cut one of these, just one, and there's 16. so that's why it's been taking me quite some time to upload a video. And honestly, that cutter didn't leave the best surface finish on these, so afterwards, after I got them all cut, I took my burr tool, it's the same tool I used to port the head with, that carbide cutter, and just cleaned it up a bit, made it a better finish because it was all jagged and looked like crap. So, but I did leave myself some meat in here to change my installed height. So if I'm going to put all the springs together after I get this cleaned up. There's obviously still a lot of shavings and everything in here, but after I get this cleaned up, I'm going to install everything, check my spring height, and if I need to go deeper, I can, because I left myself some meat. I also have some shims if I need to shorten it up a bit. So we'll see how that goes, but that's basically what I've been up to for the past month. So I was getting these cut, but it's looking better, it's making progress. So I will show you some of the springs that I got. I only got one set, but I'll show you those right now. Actually, first I'm going to show you a quick clip of how I cut these and the tooling that I used to set it up with. So basically what we got going on here is I got a 6mm pilot, and then I got the cutter installed on basically a hollow tube with a 6mm hole down the middle of it, and it's 11mm on the outside because that is the hole that's in the tool itself, in the cutter. So the pilot helps center it over there, and you can see the depth of cut that we're making here. It's about 1/8 of an inch. But I just chucked it in my drill press, and you can see there's a little bit of vibration. It's kind of hard to stabilize it, but that's probably where the surface finish problem came from. But I cleaned it up with the burr tool, so it wasn't really a big deal. It worked out. So here's the valve springs that I ended up going with. I am going to use these. I bought a set of 16. Here's a part number. It's 975-16s. Gives you the specs and everything. This is all these specs here. You can look it up online if you're interested. But basically, this is the inner spring for like a dual spring setup. You can buy just the inner spring from comp, which is cool. But this has the right diameter and a good set of tension for what I'm looking for here. So these I'm only going to use on the exhaust side. So because the intake valves are 100 thousandths longer, I'm going to only use these on the exhaust. I got another set of springs. They haven't even shipped yet. I ordered them like weeks ago, but they're on back order. As soon as I get here, I'll show you those. But basically, it's a similar spring. It's just 100 thousandths longer that I can put on the intake valves. So yeah, I'm going to set these up. That's my next project, is to get all these exhaust valves set up and get the installed heights correct so I can put all this stuff together. So next up I have the valve spring retainers. So if you go with a larger spring, you have to put a larger retainer on it because the stock retainer is too small. It won't fit the larger spring. So these are the retainers I found. They do make these in titanium, but I just bought the steel ones because I'm not trying to scream this thing to 7,000 RPMs or anything like that. But here is the part number for those. They are a Ford part, but it's a comp cams part in my opinion. So that's the one I bought. These will work for all 8 valves. And then I also bought seats. So these are different spring seats. These are a lot thicker. You can see that I machined these because these are too big. Here's a spring seat part number, also from comp. You can tell that it is a 1/270 outside diameter, and my cutter was a 1/180, so I cut it down almost 100 thousandths on all these. I bought a thicker one so I could shorten my installed height a little bit, but that all comes down to the setup and everything. But this fits in here, it drops right in there now. It's the perfect size. So yeah, that's the part I'm using for that. And if you guys have any questions, let me know. Hey, so basically, what I got coming up next, now that I got those seats cut, I'm gonna, like I said, get these valve springs set up and everything. And from there, I can, basically, I need to send the head out and get it decked. That's one thing I can't do here. I'm gonna get the head decked. And then that's pretty much it for the cylinder head. The cylinder head's pretty much gonna be done at that point. Um, Next thing I'll need to do is get the cylinder head on the block so I can measure my piston to valve clearance. So if I need to cut the pistons, fly cut the pistons, then I can do that because I'm wanting to get the pistons coated, and because I'm going to be using the stock pistons, but I don't want to get them coated now if I have to fly cut them later. So I'm going to get the cylinder head done, get it on the block so I can check my piston to valve clearance, and then here's my pistons. You can tell that they already have from the factory some valve reliefs in them, so that's why I'm kind of worried about it, because they're already clearance from the factory. So now they got this bigger cam. I'm definitely going to want to check that. So that's the next step. Also, on the horizon, little teaser. I have been purchasing some other stuff, so I got one of these too. If you guys know what this is coming up in a super future video, so just be on the lookout for that. But thanks to you guys for tuning in, and let me know if you have any questions. But have a good one.